If I had to get 10 clients as quick as possible and get my calendar fully stacked, what would I do, right? Now, the first thing you need to do is actually have a no-brainer offer or some form of marketing leverage so you can get as many people to book in as possible, right? So you need to first of all work out your ICP. So who is your ICP? Let's go with stove installers. So these are fireplace installers. What do we know about them? We know that they probably sell their jobs on average for 2 to 5k per install. 2 to 5k per install, probably, I don't know, depending on how many staff they have, maybe 30 to 40% margin, maybe more towards 30 if they're a bit bigger. So 2 to 5k, maybe making like anywhere from 1 to 3k per install. That's how much margin is in each job. Now, what do we know about stove installers? They probably rely on word of mouth, and they probably, in most cases, obviously depends on the job, businesses that do advertising are usually a better candidate to work with marketing agencies. Don't usually advertise. And where are they kept, right? Where can we find them? Where can we actually find them to prospect to them? That's an important one because that's a point of reference, right? That can be used as the opener. So where can we find them? We can find them on the HETAS register. HETAS, right? I'm giving you guys some game right now. This is a niche, right? HETAS register. That's where we can find them, and that's a point of reference. We know that they most likely rely on word of mouth and that their margin per install is 1 to 3k. So if you're selling them a lead, then it's going to obviously need to make sense in your margin, but you're also going to have to make sense for them as well. So 1 to 3k per install. It's a bit better than a boiler. People in the boiler industry buy leads, so not too bad. So maybe you could sell leads for a decent amount depending on the interest. But yeah, so selling them leads, right? Of leads, could you sell them? There's a couple of models you could run. Depends on whether or not like you're looking for long-term retainer clients or you're looking to sell leads. And obviously the ideal outcome is to have them long-term as well. So let's say you're running advertising, right? Running advertising for them. That's actually, it's not gonna get a great marketing response. So you scrape the HETAS register, right? You're going to use like some sort of scraping tool to scrape the HETAS register, and then you're going to have a list of stove installers. From there, you need a script to reach out to them from. You're obviously going to cold call them and cold email them as well using Smart Lead if you have Smart Lead available. What I would do is I would come up with a script which is around what they want, right? What do they want? They want leads. So first of all, we'll go in with the point of reference. So this is the 3-step formula, point of reference or reference point, which is going to grab their attention. So found you on HETAS. And then maybe I would just confirm if they install stoves. Do you install stoves? Yes, perfect. And then you want to lead with the value once you know that they're qualified and that you've grabbed their attention. So what's the value? We have homeowners, or we have, you could say relationships, or you could say we have just homeowners in general. Homeowners. We have homeowners who want a new stove. Are you taking on more work? So we got that. Found you on HETAS. We have homeowners who want a new stove in area. Are you taking on more work? Then you obviously want to book them in for a meeting. So they might say, send me an email. And then what you're going to do is you're going to do the placeholder method. I'll pop a placeholder in for later this week. When are you free? Bang. Then you got a meeting in the diary or a placeholder in the diary, and then you just want to follow up with them to make sure that sits and that they also know what you're doing and have value. So from there, you're obviously going to call through, going to start getting people booked into the diary. You obviously then want to have an offer to actually share with them. So that could be like leads for phone vetted, or maybe like phone vetted leads, or SMS verified leads. So what that might be is you get a go high level automation. As soon as they opt in, they then get a text from CloseBot or something of that sort, or an automatic reply. Just reply to this if you're happy to inquire or looking for a quote. And then if they reply with yes, then that's when you would send it over then to the installer, right? And for that, I'm not sure what you can charge, maybe like 50 quid for something like that. SMS vetted leads, 50 quid. So it might cost you like £20 to generate, and then each one that you, or maybe like £15 to generate, you'll have to work out the numbers on your side, but might cost you £20 to generate, and then you can maybe verify 1.5 out of 2, so that might be like 30 quid per lead that is phone verified, pass them over to them for 50 quid, bang, you make 20 quid margin on £50 a lead. Then you're gonna get them to take minimum 20 leads for 1K, or maybe 40 leads for 2K, 40 leads for 2K, ideally gonna collect that up front, and then bang, you've got an offer with a bit of margin. What you can also do is potentially structure the offer slightly differently. So let's say you're doing £50 leads, you got 40 leads at 2K, you could potentially structure that slightly differently so that you get them to cover ad spend, right? Get them to cover ad spend, but then they would pay you an additional fee per survey that they get, or a quote, or per job, maybe, per job. So cover ad spend plus 20%, not 20%, maybe 20% of profit per job. And then that could give you a good marketing angle, to be fair. So like you get into the diary with the fact that we have homeowners available who X, Y, Z, and maybe say that they're not in that area and that we would need to run a specific campaign. We can sell them leads for this amount. If they're not interested in that model, you could then maybe run an approach where it's like, okay, look, you just cover ad spend, we'll run it under your brand, and then we'll just take 20% of the profit once the deal closes. Especially if you're starting out, it's probably quite a good deal to get on. So yeah, if I was trying to get 10 clients as quick as possible, that's what I'd do. I'd just fill up my diary by cold calling, maybe block out like 5 hours of my day just to cold call, try and book in 10 meetings a day minimum, and then go in with the idea of selling a SMS vetted lead or something like that, and then downsell them to like, they just cover ad spend and then maybe you take a percentage of the job, if I was trying to get as many clients on as possible. And if you do that and you just like literally just cold call for 5 hours a day and book them in for Google Meets, and pitch as many people as possible, ideally like 3 people a day minimum, you're gonna have 10 clients by the end of the month, guaranteed.